Hi, good afternoon. My name is Colette Simeon. You might know me from stand-up comedy, and I'm here today to give you the news to my knowledge. Today is March 1st, 2020, which means we have survived month 3 of 2020. You should give yourself an applause for that. It's been a rough year, and we're only in month 3. There's so much to say. There's so many things to say. Let's start out with the pandemic. So COVID-19, which is the complex novel virus that is an upper and lower respiratory infection that is sweeping the world, is here in this country. There have been 2 reports in Miami. There have been 1 death so far in Seattle. There is a investigation going on at a local nursing home in Upper Washington State about 50 cases, half staff, half people at the facility that have tested positive for the coronavirus. They haven't updated us on how exactly it was introduced into the nursing home, but do we really need to know? I mean, we are being advised right now to wash our hands and not wear face masks and not put a run on the grocery store, but we actually have seen the Dow Jones drop almost 1,200 points in response to fears about this virus. I've read recent reports on the virus, and out of a level of 9 viruses that have affected the world, the lowest being Ebola and the highest being the measles, this virus ranks a number 6. So 6 out of 9, not bad odds. I mean, wash your hands, people. We have a czar for this pandemic or epidemic or whatever you're calling it right now, and our czar is Pence. A man who doesn't necessarily believe in science. Now, I don't know about any of you guys out there, how familiar you are with America and our healthcare system, but it's pretty shitty. I have health insurance, but that was very hard for me to come by. A lot of people spend a lot of money to make sure that they have health insurance. We do not have public health or universal health care. We do have candidates that are trying to push towards a universal health care initiative. We already had that with Obama. I don't know how or why people are so opposed to getting health care paid for by the government when so many other countries have it. But right now, I would say the level of concern would be with the lowest person insured, so somebody with no insurance at all. So it is definitely concerning. In other news, Trump spoke for over 2 hours at CPAC, and one of the things he said is that he regrets that speech. He also grabbed and hugged an American flag and mocked Mike Bloomberg's height by crouching below a podium to show his fear at being bested by Elizabeth Warren. As I've said before, I don't believe that debates actually help us get a candidate because we are not trying to hire intelligent people to do the best jobs in government. This is very concerning that we have somebody who taunts people, who gives insulting interviews that make things seem like we glorify ignorance. We also have a czar and an epidemic who doesn't necessarily believe in science, science as a whole. I don't know, man. The school where Pence's wife teaches at is near my house. It's a very religious, Christian school, and they had a report that they beat up and bullied a little black girl, and supposedly cut off her dreads, and then she recanted and said they didn't take off her dreads. But what I'm going back to is we're in a country where we have a diverse population, We have really great people putting into the economy, using their best know-how. We have colleges where people travel overseas to have the value of an American college education, and we are sitting here glorifying ignorance. I mean, if one of our economies is education and having that be a point of value for people in other countries, wouldn't we want to be more intelligent? I don't know. I'm just asking this question. I'm also concerned about the Americans who don't believe in science. I didn't know that there was a large population of these people, but it seems like there are more than I thought. There are people who only believe that the Earth is 7,000 years old. One of those people being Dr. Ben Carson, which I don't know about you, but that's awfully troubling. Also in the news, Kim Kardashian wore latex to church. As a person with a latex allergy, that's stupid. I also had a good moment with those two people who just walked by, because they were really shocked at me saying something in an interview about Kim Kardashian wearing latex to church. But that's our news. This is America. We also have recently seen some drama with Ben Affleck and his battle and with alcoholism. Alcoholism is a very real addiction, people. It destroys lives. It ruins relationships. It makes things less sincere and valuable. And what we really need to be is our real selves. If you know anybody who's battling any kind of addiction, your best bet is not to enable them. It's also not to call them on their shots. They have to want to get better to be better. And we also need to really address the mental health part of our country. I find that I have come across doing peer counseling and meeting with people that mental health and addiction run hand in hand. When you don't have a public health entity that's helping people with mental illness, they will self-medicate, and they'll use anything they can to feel okay. And sometimes that's things that are not necessarily good for them. And it's not up to us to tell people what moral choices that they make. You can't really tell people how many children they're supposed to have. You're not supposed to tell people what they can do with their bodies. I know we have had a very long conversation in this country about the rights of women and what they can do with their bodies. But it's not up for debate what you do with your own body. I recently they're trying to keep me from getting better. I have endometriosis because they want me to preserve my uterus in case I have children. But here's the thing, guys. I'm 42 years old. It's kind of not up for debate anymore whether or not I will pop out a kid. It's kind of now that I realize I can't pop out a kid, what am I going to do to have young people in my life? And things like this blog, being able to relate to children, is one ways where I get that. I'm like a cool auntie to a couple of kids, and that's really great. What I'm saying is, in this election, don't get caught up in keywords like abortion. Don't vote for people to preserve something and govern people's bodies, like trans people, those sorts of people, and keeping them away from healthcare. Because as you keep people away from healthcare, you start the conversation of shutting people out in a case like this where we're having an epidemic. People are getting sick. Remember the AIDS crisis, guys? That was something that affected everyone. I don't know about you, but I had multiple relatives die of AIDS, and they were shut out my family in their last days. And that was very traumatic because they were just people who chose a lifestyle that shouldn't have been questioned in the first place. And when you do things in the dark, it exposes all this bad shit to the light. And you don't want to go out with your last memories being callous and unfeeling. Also, on that note about callousness and unfeeling, if most of you will stop being racist and unfair to Asian people, I understand that this virus did start in China, but it could have started in like the dead of the rainforest. And are you going to be like racist towards Latin Americans? Also, shutting down the southern borders to prevent the spread of coronavirus is not going to prevent the spread of coronavirus, since it's coming in from multiple countries now. We've had the vice president of Iran get sick. We have had some Italian people get sick in Italy. And that's how we got our first case from Rhode Island, was somebody who traveled to Italy. Are we going to just shut all of our borders because there is a virus? It's already here. And what about international trade and those sorts of things? We don't make a lot of our own stuff. So being finger pointy and bad to countries that produce the things that we need is not what you need now. It's not. On a happier note, it's the start of rodeo season in Houston, Texas. There was a big flood at 610 East where it hits I-10 close to the port of Houston due to a water main break. And of course, it flooded trucks, because it's not a flood unless you flood a few trucks in Texas. Also, in great notes, this week was the 25th anniversary of Selena making her last concert at the U.S. Rodeo, which is held in Houston, Texas, the biggest rodeo that there is. This is my hometown, so I love it, so I can't help but speak on it. That's the news to my knowledge, and have a good day.